Vice President J.D. Vance met with Pope Francis just yesterday. The Pope also met with the 3 U.S. presidents who were in the Oval Office during his papacy. With us now is historian John McGreevy. He is the Provost at the University of Notre Dame, its second-ranking official. Thanks for joining us. So after his election in 2013, Francis's pontificate spanned the terms of Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, and then a little bit of Trump again. Joe Biden, the only Catholic of them all. Talk to us a little bit about his relationship with all 3. Let's start with Trump, who met him in 2017.
Well, first of all, it's great to be here. The relationship with President Trump was somewhat antagonistic. Francis was the first pope from the global South, and as such, he was focused on a lot of the issues that Catholics in the global South are focused on, including migration and environmental issues, among other things. And of course, Francis's view of migrants, that they have basic human dignity, that they need to be supported, was challenged in some ways, especially not so much even by the actions, but by the rhetoric of President Trump. So there was some tension there, even if there were sympathy on other issues, but there was real tension on some of the issues that were core for Pope Francis.
How about his relationship with President Obama? Obama was president when Francis was first elected in 2013 and when he visited the United States back in 2015.
Even judging by the statement that President Obama released this morning, it was a very warm, as far as we can tell, relationship. Now, on the one hand, President Obama was very pro-choice. Pope Francis, of course, is very pro-life on the abortion issue. On the other hand, on issues like climate change, which was crucial for Pope Francis, on issues like, as I said before, migration, Pope Francis and Obama seemed to see eye to eye, and the relationship, by all the accounts we have, actually was quite warm, and that was reflected in President Obama's statement this morning.
And then, of course, there's Joe Biden, who, after John F. Kennedy, has been only the second Catholic president this country's ever had.
One of the ironies of the recent past in the relationship between the Vatican and the U.S. is that President Biden was the most Catholic president we've ever had, a very faithful, practicing Catholic. But because of his pro-choice views on abortion, there was a lot of antagonism to President Biden from within the Catholic Church in the United States, but not so much from Pope Francis. Again, Pope Francis is very pro-life, but he and Biden clearly saw eye to eye on a number of other issues, and were able to develop a quite strong working relationship. And again, you saw that this morning, too, with President Biden's very warm, very enthusiastic statement. Those of us who watched the State of the Union addresses, we could always see in the background there, when President Biden was giving his State of the Union, a big photo of President Biden and Pope Francis, which at least I think symbolically suggested the importance that President Biden placed on that relationship.
Yeah, the Oval Office addresses with that photo. When we speak of Catholicism and politics, you've noted that the fight over abortion rights has colored the relationship between popes and Democrats and Republicans in some ways for decades. Do you think that abortion will remain the top issue when it comes to relationships that the United States president has with the Pope, drowning out economics, treatment of the poor, migration, or the environment? Or do you think it's just, it depends on the Pope and it depends on the day?
A little bit depends on the Pope, depends on the day. And of course, we have to see who's elected as the next Pope. But I actually would add that American politics has changed too. In the post-Dobbs environment, the issue of abortion has been more firmly placed in the states. It's less of a national political issue, although it is still somewhat national. And in that context too, I think other issues are going to come to the fore, and they include migration, they include climate change, they include the kind of economy we have and how that protects the dignity of the poor, which was such a big issue for Pope Francis. So I do think the constellation of issues is going to shift a bit.
John McGreevy, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Live images from Buenos Aires, where a mass is underway in the hometown of the late Pope Francis. We're going to go live to Argentina coming up. But first,